Welcome back to the SA Diplomat Abroad. I'm Abdu-Raof, and today we're speaking about travel for South Africans abroad, those who are living abroad and working abroad. We're sitting today with the South African Ambassador to Qatar, His Excellency Ambassador Faizel Moosa, and we're going to explore what this specific government, the Qatari government, may have in place or may put in place going forward. This is all substantial at the moment because no formal announcements have been made from the government. A lot of inquiries have come through to us over the last few weeks concerning travel and South Africans living abroad wanting to go home on holiday but fearing if they might be able to come back, or alternatively if they might have to go into restrictions when entering their home countries abroad. To take that on a little bit further, we chat to His Excellency Ambassador Faizel Moosa of the South African Embassy here in Qatar. He's very familiar to the channel and he's been in the hot seat many times before. So don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel and pound that notification bell. We chat to Ambassador Faizel Moosa about travel back home for South Africans. We're sitting with His Excellency Ambassador Faizel Moosa, the South African Ambassador to Qatar. And as we said in the introduction, we're going to be speaking about travel for South Africans living and working abroad, looking to travel home during the holiday period now, especially during this next period with the school holidays just coming into play in the Middle East. Mr. Ambassador, once again, welcome to the SA Diplomat Abroad. I think the last time we spoke, we were both sitting in our home city in Cape Town, and it's been a while now, but welcome back to the SA Diplomat Abroad.
No, thank you, Abdu-Raof. Good to be back.
Yeah.
You know, lots of things to discuss, lots of things happened since we spoke last, but
the story we're sitting in at the moment is an never-ending story. When we spoke last, we spoke about COVID-19 and the impacts that our country in South Africa was going through, and not only that, but people abroad as well. And in your representation here in Qatar, here itself, South Africans have obviously been affected by COVID. A few weeks back, about 2 weeks back, we posted a photo of the state president of South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa, in his address to the nation, where he said that South Africa is being placed under level 3 restrictions once again because of the numbers and the infliction of the COVID-19 pandemic again. So a third wave has entered South Africa. And since then, we've been inundated by inquiries by South Africans, not only in Qatar, but South Africans in the UAE and in Saudi Arabia and abroad, all concerned about what could possibly happen if the numbers rise in South Africa. So, Mr. Ambassador, to unpack that today, I think we'd like to chat about Qatar specifically, and we know there's experience of what happened last year with the Qatari government and South Africa, but as an introduction, what are your thoughts on South Africa and travel at the moment for?
You remember the last time when we sat, I mean, that was like almost in the height of COVID last year, 2020. We all thought by now this pandemic could have been something of the past. And obviously it's not. I mean, you know, different countries are at different levels of first or second or third wave. And South Africa no different. It is, well, it seems like we've now entered officially our third wave.
Yeah.
And the predictions, I just saw the predictions are that we must even prepare for a fourth wave.
Yeah.
So this thing is still going to be around for a while,
Yeah.
you know. And I think all governments are kind of grappling with how to deal with it, because on the one side we're trying to keep our economies going, on the other side we're also trying to protect our populations.
Yeah.
Qatar no different, you know. The situation remains fluid, so I can't really say exactly what they're going to do. I'm sure they are monitoring South Africa, because remember a few months ago there was the South African strain that they were very concerned about.
Yes.
So we were placed on their red list, and we remain on their red list up until today. So what Qatar has done, they place a lot of emphasis on the vaccine.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, South Africans going back to South Africa is not going to be a problem. So any South African, whether they're in the Middle East or whether elsewhere, to go home at this stage, also we've not really placed the kind of lockdown measures that we've seen in level 4, level 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are still allowed to travel, so you know, our borders are still open. So going home is not going to be the problem. Even if you're in South Africa, when you go to South Africa, you need the PCR test at least within 72 hours before you arrive, and there's no quarantine. I've just been home a month ago, and I mean it was smooth, you know, very smooth. So my experience coming back was the same, but Qatar also required the PCR test at least 72 hours before you arrive.
Yeah.
And the vaccine passport, as they call it, was one of the requirements. I was therefore not required to go into hotel quarantine or any quarantine, in fact.
Now, Mr. Ambassador, the risks, the way I look at it at the moment, it's a double-ended sword. Because number one, we are South Africans. Going home, we're governed by South Africans' law. Living in Qatar is another story, because we're governed by the Qatari law on this side. So both sides, there could be changes.
No,
there could possibly be changes.
Situation is fluid, you know. Tomorrow you might be in another totally different situation regarding COVID. So yeah.
So we know that it's easy to travel back home, and currently at the moment, as it stands, it's quite easy to re-enter Qatar, especially if you've been vaccinated.
Yeah.
However, if we take the India case currently playing out in Qatar, and how Qatar is reacting to the way the strain in India has manifested throughout the country, the first thing they've done is they've imposed quarantine restrictions on all entries of anyone, whether vaccinated or not, on return back to Qatar. In your opinion, I know I can't ask you for facts, because I know the government here will not say that right now until it's that time, but has there been any type of indication or communication or discussion around fears of how South Africa is currently managing the pandemic and how it is currently manifesting in the country?
There's been absolutely no indication. I mean, there's been no change since our second peak in December to now. Even when we were down to 700 a day in South Africa, we still remained on their red list. Right? You know, I must just make the comparison between South Africa and India, where the situations is very much different. Number one, there's about 700,000 Indians in Qatar, out of a population of 2.7 million. There's only 5,500, 6,000 South Africans in Qatar, as opposed. So obviously there's big differences. I mean, India had 300,000 infections a day a few weeks ago. We at the moment, as the president has moved us up into level 3, we're seeing now about 8,000 to 10,000 infections a day. So there is differences.
There's disparity.
I think in December there was obviously the issue around the South African strain and that it was extremely aggressive.
Yeah.
I think that they've kind of slowed down. You know, I don't think the South African strain is that much of a concern anymore.
Yeah.
But as you know, I mean, this is Qatar. I mean, here they make decisions like that, and tomorrow things might change. So I don't want you to hold me to it.
you know, Mr. Ambassador, I think we know that story too well. In last year, you had your hands totally full with South Africans who were stuck outside of Qatar. I was one of them. Okay. They were stuck out of South Africa. And I know there was very little that an embassy could do. It was up to the government of the country that had to step in to allow the people to re-enter. However, that was a very challenging time, but I think now it's very different because that was the coronavirus was fairly new at that time. Yeah. Everyone panicked, and the entire world was shut down.
Right.
So now we're sitting at a level of maybe 10,000 cases a day in South Africa. From South Africa's government perspective, are there any indications that they would further impose restrictions if it goes any further?
Yeah.
And we attached to that also, we've also heard rumors that the India strain has peaked its head in South Africa, and that is also a contributing factor to the speed of infection currently in our country.
Yeah. You know, I think the world, the globe, has learned quite a lot since the inception of the coronavirus pandemic. And I think everybody's moving towards a more liberal approach to it, and not the hardline kind of lockdown approach that we've seen in the beginning, because that had devastating impact. I mean, you know, on the economy, on people's lives, and on the psyche of the populations. You know, I mean, we still have to deal with some of those things. So I think from South African side, we very matured in the way we looking at this thing. I mean, we have since we opened up in October last year, closing the borders has not become an option, because that obviously has huge other impacts, like I said, on the economy and so forth, and people's lives and unemployment. So I doubt if we'll go to that extent. But obviously there's still the social distancing thing that we'll do. I think that we will probably be closing schools soon, because, you know, different people come together and it can become super spreader events. I think we'll probably bring down again, like the numbers in terms of gatherings, you know, that we've relaxed on when we move from to level 1, the last move that we made to level 1. I think we also reacting very early. I mean, we didn't wait last time. We waited till it was 22,000 per day. Yeah. When we moved, you know, the level. So I think this time we're responding much more quickly. So I doubt if there'll be that heavy lockdown in South Africa in terms of like closing provincial borders. Remember, it was hectic. I mean, you couldn't come in, you couldn't come out. Yeah. You know, we had people stuck at different airports across the world. They couldn't fly back to South Africa. So it was a very trying and difficult time. We also were trying to understand this pandemic.
Mr. Ambassador, from the vaccination perspective in South Africa, we read last night, and I didn't actually give that into your comments for today, but just briefly, we read last night that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine has been recalled by the United States due to contamination of some kind. Yeah. There's a large number of South Africans, specifically health workers, and essential services that have received that vaccine up to now. Yeah. Has there been any indication from I know the Ministry of Health has been replaced for the interim. Yeah, the minister. But has there been any indication from the Ministry of Health as far as that vaccination, the administration of that vaccination up to now?
I think it's still very new.
Yeah.
So we obviously, I think the experts are still studying
Okay.
the facts and the data,
Okay.
processing the data.
Yeah.
So we haven't really had a very clear indication. But we've also acquired other vaccines.
Yeah.
So you know, I know we've been challenged with this vaccine
Yeah.
thing. South Africa just can't seem to get it to grips.
Yeah.
But that's because of the way the world is playing with this
Yeah.
vaccine. I mean, you know, poorer countries and Africa itself
Yeah.
are struggling to get access to vaccine. I mean, even Qatar, as wealthy as it is presently, there's a shortage of vaccine.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so with the whole move of the COVAX program,
Yeah.
we're going to get access to vaccines for poorer countries
Yeah.
and so forth. Qatar made a huge contribution to that, to funding
saw
some of
that,
those
yeah.
things. It's still not where we want to be.
Yeah.
You know, I think South Africa, together with India and some other countries, are pushing very hard. I mean, President Ramaphosa
Yeah.
is really driving that.
Yeah.
To depoliticize, you
Yeah.
know, the access to vaccine,
Yeah.
because it doesn't matter how well your country, as a specific country, is protected by a vaccine, even if you reach herd immunity. The globe needs to reach herd immunity in order for the whole globe to benefit. And I think for some reason the wealthy countries are not seeing that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're looking very internally, and the pandemic is not going to go away unless we have a global approach
Yeah.
to it. Right?
Absolutely.
So we are pushing hard. We've had some challenges, like I said, around the vaccine. I mean, remember the first lot that we got from
Yeah.
India was also problematic, expiry dates and so
Yeah.
forth. And it's not the first time that Johnson & Johnson has been withdrawn
Yeah.
by the US. I mean, it was done, I think, 4 or 5 months early this year. We also had, it was also
Put on hold.
Put on hold,
Yeah.
yeah. So we also then responded to that.
Yeah.
And now again, you know, I think this whole pandemic obviously is a experiment
Yeah.
in progress. I mean,
Yeah.
we're all part of that experiment. Unfortunately, we can't wait the 10 years like we normally do
Of course not. Yeah.
for the world to eventually find a solution. So so we've got to play our part and be the guinea pigs that we are at the moment.
Mr. Ambassador, this brings us, you know, when we speak like that, it brings us to the very pressing question at the moment that has come through to us, and that is, as South Africans, is now a good time to travel? I know that in the past it was said, not directly as travel advisories, but it was said, think carefully
Yeah.
before getting onto a plane and traveling.
Right.
With the current strain in South Africa and your people here in Qatar at the moment, us South Africans, in your personal opinion, is it a good time to travel? And I know we unpacked the risks already of whether people might be imposed to quarantine measures on return, or might not even be able to return.
Yeah.
It depends on the government. But at this present time, school holidays has just started in Qatar. We're going to be stuck with our kids at home for 3 months.
Absolutely.
And many of us travel this time of the year, and we go home for at least a month to a month and a half. What is your advice to South Africans living in Qatar
Yeah.
wanting to go home right now?
Well, you know, it's going home. It's
Yeah.
not going to Turkey or going to Thailand, or it's a different kind of
Yeah.
journey. I think this
Yeah.
is, because you're
Yeah.
going home. One understands more the dynamics at home in terms of COVID. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm from the Western Cape, so obviously when I go look at the stats, I say, okay, Western Cape, 10% yesterday of the entire
Yeah.
daily infection
Yeah.
rate. And I mean, you kind of know where to go and where not to go. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so
Yeah.
I would really, encourage people, not encourage, but if they really need to go, they must feel free to go.
Yeah.
Number one, there's not many restrictions back home in terms of
Travel.
entry into the country
Okay.
for South
Yeah.
Africans, right? In fact, even entering South Africa, the COVID vaccination passport is not a requirement.
Not
A
yet.
South African
Yeah.
can still fly back home without the restrictions. except the PCR test. Obviously, coming back, the vaccination certificate becomes important. So it's difficult to commit, man, to anybody to say, yes, you must just fly. Because if you fly tomorrow and can't come back, you're going to come phone me and say, listen, you said I can go. Yeah. So I'm trying to be very diplomatic, but I'm saying going home.
It's going home.
You're going home.
You're going home,
Right. You're not going on a vacation as you normally would. Yeah. So I don't think that will be that much of a problem in my view. I mean, it's my personal view, of course. But again, I must just stress, I mean, the situation is very fluid, and tomorrow Qatar can place restrictions on you coming back this way. And there's no guarantee. That guarantee I can't give.
At SA Diplomat Abroad, our main focus today is to assist where we can, and it is therefore that we have revised our advertising rates to allow an opportunity to all businesses, big and small, to advertise their brands with us. From as little as just 200 Rand or 50 Qatari Riyal per month, you can have your brand reach a captive audience in South Africa and abroad. For more information, visit our website on www.sa-diplomat.com or email us on advertising@sa-diplomat.com. SA Diplomat Abroad International Media, news, views and interviews for the global South African. So, Mr. Ambassador, I mean, from your perspective, over the last 1.5 years, more than 1.5 years in COVID, you've played a very active role, not only in Qatar, but throughout the world, in repatriating South Africans from abroad. And that has, I think it's more than 7,000 South Africans abroad. Mr. Ambassador, how did you manage that, and how was it to go through that type of experience?
It wasn't an easy experience, like I said. Firstly, when we approached Qatar Airways through Abdu-Raof, the group CEO there, his response was negative. He said, no, we're not flying, we're not doing any repatriation flights. And as you know, with persistence and also using our network to somebody to speak to somebody to speak to somebody, eventually could speak to Abdu-Raof, they eventually agreed to repatriate. And considering that they were still at the time servicing 64 countries around the world, at least gave us a reach into places that we otherwise there was no flights. I mean, we repatriated people from Afghanistan, for instance, from Pakistan, from San Francisco, from America, from North and South America, from Europe. And the challenging thing was that not even South Africa, we didn't know how to deal with this thing. We were also learning as we were going along in terms of the coronavirus command council had to give permission, and there was a lot of technicalities in terms of Department of Transport, Department of Health was involved, because they had to, remember when you fly in, you had to go into quarantine first, and so it was all the department at home also having to work together. And it was, the very first flight was a disaster almost. The very first flight we had the whole aircraft standing at the airport, and Abdu-Raof screaming down my neck because he's got
they
this
wouldn't allow them to disembark.
To leave. They wouldn't allow them to land
in South Africa
because the Department of Health didn't give their authority. You see. So we were also learning as we went along from Qatar that you need Department of Transport must give permission, Turco is involved, Health is involved, and all of these components must all be synchronized in order to land. So it was very challenging, but we did well.
And I also remember very clearly that your experience with coronavirus started with a bang, because there were South Africans stuck on Qatar's airport.
First day.
That couldn't, they couldn't leave.
The first day we had this group stuck at, they were in the departures, in fact they were in transit. And then while they were in transit and just about to get to board the flight, we closed our borders in South Africa. So they were stuck there for about 7 or 8 days. But again, I think we must again thank Qatar Airways, because you know, I requested then for Qatar Airways, even if we get them on a cargo flight, because that was the only flights that were still flying. I mean, food was still going up and down, and cargo. And to my surprise, he agreed to put them on a cargo flight. And then, I mean, there were also many other instances, I must tell you, Abdu-Raof, that where Qatar Airways was wonderful. I mean, there were many people stuck around the world that didn't have the ability to get back home. Because at the time, the tickets was just exorbitantly expensive. And people had already bought tickets from other airlines. And there was no refund, right? So we had people stuck in other countries. Even in Qatar, there were some people stuck. And Qatar Airways actually flew them back at no cost.
My goodness.
You know, I think, sure, it would have been very embarrassing for us if we had left our own people outside of the country completely stranded without that assistance.
But I think also, Mr. Ambassador, I was in South Africa when those South Africans, I think it was about a handful of them, a dozen of them that were stuck on the airport.
The first lot.
The first lot.
Yeah, 9
I was in South Africa, and I clearly remember how the South Africans here in Qatar rallied around as well to support and to feed, to make them as comfortable as possible while they were stuck for that 7 days on the airport. So hats off to us South Africans once again. I mean, we stand together.
We are compassionate lot, you know. We even sometimes when we don't have to get involved, we get involved. And I think that's just the passion that South Africans got. And I think that is the Mandela magic that comes through. And you see it across the world. Wherever South Africans is, they're always involved in where people are struggling, or if there's issues, and they try and get involved.
Mr. Ambassador, this week in South Africa has obviously been a very difficult week as well. We saw two major personalities who have passed away due to COVID. The one, obviously, the very well-known actress Charlene Surti Richards, and the other one being a very prominent Muslim scholar in the Western Cape, Mufti Taha Karan. As South Africans living abroad, it's always very difficult when we hear of these things happening. Your message to the families and to the people of South Africa?
Yeah, well, you know, I come from the Strand. My roots is in the Strand. My mother is from the Strand. So the Karan family is very prominent there. And I must say that they've had a very difficult few years. I mean, from the father who passed away a few years ago, and then the sister who was very, you know, well known on the radio, Munadia, and then the professor, who was a well-known scholar in terms of agriculture, and in fact he was on President Ramaphosa's advisory council for land redistribution. And now the Islamic scholar, you know, may Allah have mercy on their soul. I mean, it's a huge loss for us. I mean, COVID has just been devastating. I mean, you know, many scholars, many medical people that we've lost, many family members, you know, that we've lost. I mean, Charlene is an icon. You know, I was a young boy when we used to watch shows. Yeah, absolutely. I remember it very clearly. As a little boy, man, you know, we used to watch shows, and I mean, it was shocking to have heard about her. But may the Lord have mercy on their souls, and you know, your time is your time. You're not going to go a minute earlier, a minute later, and we will still one day sit down and count, you know, the impact of COVID across the board, because I don't think there's a family in South Africa that hasn't suffered in some way or the other with a loved one, or you know, somebody very close around this pandemic.
Mr. Ambassador, both these people and many of the people that have fallen were propagators of the message that we should abide by government's laws and standards now during COVID, and for our own safekeeping, and they have fallen by the wayside. In your final words, Mr. Ambassador, to our community here in Qatar at the moment as South Africans, What advices do you have for us currently during this time?
Yeah.
I know you've given your advices on travel already,
Yeah.
but currently living in Qatar,
Yeah.
what advices do you have for us?
Well, around the pandemic, I mean, I think we must just stay within the law. You know, I mean, even if you go back to South Africa, those that's going to travel, that's going to you know, go on their vacations, they must just abide. I mean, the whole social distancing thing is important. The wearing of the mask is important. And whether some people believe it works or not, it doesn't work, I think it's proven that when we do lockdown and we go hard, you know, then it helps. I mean, we went down from 22,000 in December to 800, 500 even at some stage in a matter of 2 months, because South Africans were more conscious of what they can, what they need to do. And the reports was that everybody was, or not even 99% of people was abiding by the social distancing and not going out unnecessarily and so forth. So I think if we continue to abide by the laws with South Africa, even in Qatar, we can, you know, safeguard ourselves as much as possible. Nothing is guaranteed, as you know. I mean, I've known people that has also gone overboard with who still managed to get COVID. You know, so it really depends on how we as individuals deal with the situation, and I think it's just adhering to the regulations at this stage is what I can suggest.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for your time. It's always a pleasure having you in the hot seat, because there's so much information that's imparted, things that we don't know and things that can really benefit our community here, specifically in Qatar and abroad. We hope to see you in that seat at least once a quarter, if not more often. So I think, you know, with the current situation, there's a lot of information that people are needing at the moment, and I think the embassy is, the embassy and yourself, that should be the ideal point of call for everyone. And I think also from our side, we would like to promote everyone in Qatar specifically to register with the embassy as well, to make sure that their details are up to date, because during a time of pandemic, death comes very quickly, and our representative from South Africa needs to be up to speed as to who the South Africans are that's living in your region. Am I correct?
No. As you know, Abdu-Raof, I've got an open door policy. I mean, I get lots of SMS from the other day somebody asked me if I can organize a vaccination to that extent. But that's who I am. I mean, I think that's the outreach that I do on behalf of the embassy, so that, you know, people know that there's a point of access or point of information or point of assistance that they can muster. I mean, I can't solve everybody's problems, but I can attempt. And that's my motto as the Ambassador of South Africa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, and to your staff at the embassy as well.
Thank you for having me, and we'll chat soon. Like you
said,
it's a quarterly date we've got on, and we'll stick to that.
Indeed we will. This has been the SA Diplomat Abroad. I'm Abdu-Raof, and we've been speaking to His Excellency Ambassador Faizel Moosa, the South African Ambassador to Qatar, about the travel for South Africans living abroad and wanting to travel back home, the risks involved, and friendly advices from the Ambassador on whether that's advised or not right now. You've heard it from the Ambassador. So these are very trying times. Unfortunately, information isn't something that is very forthcoming right now from governments, and advisory, we should keep our ears to the ground. And as a diplomat abroad, we try to keep that information as current as possible and to keep you informed to make those informed decisions. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and pound that notification bell. And until next time, we bid you goodbye.